In the name of Allah, the All-Beneficent, the All-Merciful.
Does successorship only refer to political authority?
Some deviating people do terrible injustice to the event of Ghadir by portraying it as a matter of transferring political. State that the main goal of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, in Ghadir Khumm was to establish Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, as a political leader after his departure.
Were it truly so, the matter would have been a historical matter, and it would be meaningless to quarrel over the right of Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, to rule after passing 1,400 years. It is almost 14 centuries too late to decide whether Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, should have been the first or the fourth ruling governor after the departure of the Prophet to Imam al-Mahdi, peace be upon him, who will appear at the end of time and will establish the kingdom of justice on earth. On the other hand, a brief look at the sermon of Ghadir shows that the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, wanted to pass on much more than political authority to Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and the infallible Imams after him. Whether or not the guardians that Allah appointed become a ruling authority, the believers of all generations have a duty to abide by their instructions. Therefore, it is not too late to follow their commands, accept them as guardians, submit to them, prefer their sayings over one's own and others' opinions, consider them as the center of truth, evaluate everything by their standard, and keep aloof from their enemies who opposed their commands.
It is also interesting to observe that the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, mentioned the titles Wali, Mawla, and Imam for Maulana al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, in his sermon over 27 times, whereas he used the word Khalifa for him only 3 times. Even under the Bakrees and Umayyads implication of the word Khalifa, successor, which limits it to political rule, it is clear that the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, stressed spiritual leadership in his speech, which would guarantee the salvation of those who follow the Imam, and would lead them towards paradise. Worldly issues never took priority for the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, and his successors. Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam al-Himself has said, "By Allah, this world of yours is more despicable in my eyes than a pig bone in the hand of a leper."
Certainly, had the majority of people followed the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, concerning the divinely appointed guide, he would have naturally come to power. Thus, Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali's exclusive qualification for political rule is only one of the natural outcomes of the guardianship, Walaya, that the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, established for him on behalf of Allah on the day of Ghadir. In this manner, the spiritual authority of Maulana Amirul Mu'minin al-Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and his pure descendants is still effective over the remaining believers until the day of judgment, irrespective of the support of the majority of people for them or their political authority.
Believing in the infallible Imam's virtues in one's heart and adhering to his words in disguise, al-taqiyya, under tyrannical rule are not only sufficient for salvation in the hereafter but also rewarded many folds, because observing faith is more difficult at times of terror and fear. According to the traditions, worship during the days of tyrannical government is more rewarding for the believers than worship during the time of the just government, though this fact should not prevent the believers from praying to Allah for the manifestation of the kingdom of justice on earth by Imam al-Mahdi, peace be upon him.